Hey guys, Ron here, and I thought it would be super fun to see which region has the best assortment of Pokemon for each type. And keyword again is fun. This is just for fun. We're gonna ask some big questions like, does Sinnoh have the best dragon types, and does Kalos have the best fairy types? We'll see. The following method is how I determined the answers to these age-old questions. I brought every Pokemon of a specific type and region together and compiled the top 10 or 6 for each region. This way, a region was based on quality instead of quantity, because almost every region can bring forth at least 5 Pokemon from a type, and if they don't, their lack of Pokemon of that type means they definitely don't deserve to win for that specific type. Then I gave points for each individual Pokemon in the top 5 of each region, the best Pokemon getting 10 points and the worst getting less. I add them up, and the region with the most points wins. If there's a tie, we look at the honorable mentions, and if that didn't work, I actually polled thousands of followers on Twitter. I'm judging the Pokemon based on significance to the franchise, how much they perfectly represent their type, design, popularity, appeal, personal preference, and only competitive battle prowess when necessary. It's definitely not an objective list, cause others would count different aspects of what makes a Pokemon good. For example, I love design and lore, while another person may only care about a Pokemon's power. I'm also only really counting final evolutions, but pre-evolved Pokemon will count if they're super iconic, or if they debuted in a generation before their evolved form like Onix. But in the end, I made this video, so it's slightly biased, so consider my opinion, but don't take it too seriously. Now, normal is the second most abundant type, so all regions can be pitted against each other, except for Kalos, which doesn't have enough fully evolved normal types. The two obvious answers to me were Kanto and Sinnoh, but it was hard to determine the actual victor. After all, Sinnoh has 2 significant legendary Pokemon that are normal type, and the legendaries and mythicals, which Arceus is, usually get 1 or 2 more points than the average Pokemon in this video. But Kanto could win because its top 6 was consistently fresh with Snorlax, Tauros, and Kangaskhan, who are beasts, and Chansey, Ditto, and Meowth, who are iconic, and even honorable mentions like Wigglytuff and Raticate are still pretty neat, while the ones from Sinnoh like Ambipom and Perugly are below average in my opinion. The victor is Kanto, with Sinnoh coming in second with heavy hitters. Keep in mind that second and even third place in this video are still high honors, especially since almost all of these categories are super close and need some kind of tiebreaker. Now, since there are more water types out of any in the Pokemon world, every region gets to participate in this type. Third place goes to Alola, with some amazing water types like Golisopod, Wishiwashi, Tapu Fini, Toxapex, and Pyukumuku, and more. All of them are great. Kanto comes in second with double the amount of water types that Alola has, but we're talking about quality, not quantity. And the Pokemon like Blastoise, Gyarados, Vaporeon, Lapras, Tentacruel, and much more are all top tier water types. But the winner for me has to be the region with too much water, Hoenn. You got Kyogre, guys, that's a big deal, but one Pokemon never contributes to the win, unless there's a tie, and the other water types definitely help build Hoenn's reputation. We got Swampert, Milotic, Wailord, Ludicolo, Walrein, and Sharpedo. These are real water types here. The honorable mentions are up there too. The fire type goes to Johto, with Kanto coming in really close, but it all comes up to Ho-Oh and Entei, 2 monumental monsters on Johto's side, not to mention a fan favorite starter like Typhlosion. But seriously, the competition is tough when Kanto has Charizard, Arcanine, Moltres, and Rapidash. Univa's Volcarona, Reshiram, Chandelure, and Darmanitan were great contenders though, so they get 3rd place. Keep in mind there are more Pokemon of this type to mention, but it would be a waste of time to mention all the Pokemon of each type, so please don't say I forgot any Pokemon. They were thought about when tallying up the points, but I'm gonna mention the Pokemon that helped each generation win or come close to winning. Fighting was really hard. When is it not? Alola comes in 3rd, but it got the same amount of points as the winning region when I first tallied up the points. But then I polled my followers and Unova came in 2nd, with hard hitters like Conkeldurr, Scrafty, Emboar, Mienshao, and the Swords of Justice. But ultimately, the Sinnoh region took 1st place, with obvious choices like Lucario, Infernape, Gallade, and Toxicroak, all 4 being iconic fighting types. For flying, Kalos comes in 3rd. Its flying types are part of what makes Kalos so great. Look at this group. But it couldn't go toe-to-toe with Johto's Lugia and Ho-Oh, not to mention Crobat, Skarmory, and even Mantine. It got a real spot in 2nd place, but there was no doubt that Kanto was gonna win in the flying department. Well, with the legendary birds hailing from Kanto and the most popular of Pokemon and flying types like Charizard, Dragonite, Scyther, Aerodactyl, all the way to Butterfree at the end, which is still a pretty strong honorable mention. For grass, Alola and Unova tie for 2nd. Both of them have seriously tough grass types, Pokemon that give grass types a good name, but a close winner is Hoenn, with bias that you gotta let me have. Of course, I didn't allow myself to give Hoenn the win because of Sceptile. I just had to think which region would I most want to do a playthrough with only grass types, and the answer was Hoenn, but only by 1 point, and probably because I give Sceptile 1 more point than the average fan. So don't take my word on this. For poison type, it was super obvious. Kanto wins by a lot. Look at these guys. These are not only top tier poison types, but top tier Pokemon. Alola comes in with a strong second place. I love all 4 of these Pokemon, as well as the third place group from Sinnoh. Electric was close though. Third place goes to Kanto, who starts off with some Pokemon you can't ignore like Zapdos, Pikachu, Jolteon, and Electabuzz, but ends off with the lackluster Electrode and Magneton. Alola, which comes in second, is pretty consistent with its electric types, and could have easily taken first place if I liked Zoroark a bit more. But it's held up by Pokemon I love, like Vikavolt and Xurkitree. Of course, Tapu Koko is up there with Togedemaru and Oricorio, but number 1 has to go to Unova, with Zekrom, Thundurus, Zebstrika, Electros, and we're still going on with the Galvantula, Emolga, and Stunfisk. I actually like Stunfisk. Again, whenever Unova wins, I feel like you may be doubting me because I like Unova as much as all the other regions, while a lot of people see these Pokemon and couldn't give them as many points as I did. Ground was hard to pick. Hoenn won with Groudon, Swampert, Flygon, Camerupt, Claydol, and Whiscash, all representing the ground type so well. Second place is tied by Sinnoh and Unova, who could have been number 1 because these mons are great, but I feel like Hoenn's top 3 really outdid themselves. Now, Psychic was complicated, but I think I can confidently say that Hoenn wins too. Its top 5 are all iconic Psychic types. Look at them! Kanto could have been second with Mewtwo, Mew, and Alakazam for crying out loud, but they really do go downhill quickly with Pokemon like Jinx and Mr. Mime. So second place easily goes to Alola, with the Celestial Trio, along with Tapu Lele and Oranguru, giving him a slight amount of points above Kanto. Rock was the hardest to decide. There was a 3-way tie with Kanto, Hoenn, and Unova, so I asked Twitter, and couldn't believe how they had the same dilemma. Since Twitter doesn't allow decimal points, Kanto wins. I think Kanto has a more consistently iconic array of rock types. They're all good, while Unova is second and Hoenn is third. This was tricky because none of the rock types from all 3 of these regions are bad. They're all fantastic in my opinion. Ice appropriately goes to the coldest region, Sinnoh. It wasn't hard, and Kanto's second with some quality ice types, except for Jinx, but Articuno and Lapras make up for it. Now the bug type is the whole reason I made this video. I was playing through Pokemon Black this summer and thought to myself how Unova has so many amazing bug types, so I made a video as an excuse to show you guys Unova's underrated assortment of bugs. They're all stupendous. Genesect, Volcarona, Scolipede, Excelgor, Escavalier, and I'm still going with Leavanny, Galvantula, and Pokemon I actually really love like Crustle and Durant, but the last 4 were technically honorable mentions and weren't part of the vote. But a super close second with impressive bug types as well is Alola, with beautifully beastie bugs that I adore like Vikavolt, Golisopod, Ribombee, Buzzwole, Pheromosa, and Araquanid. No Alolan bug type is bad, so Unova wasn't as unanimous as I thought. It won by a point. Dragon goes to Hoenn with the most notable of dragon types. We got your Rayquazas, Latios and Latias, Salamence, Flygon, and Altaria. Zinnia would be proud. I honestly can't decide whether or not Sinnoh or Unova should take second place, so please enlighten me in the comment section. Ghost was easy though. Alola won by a lot. Look at these ghosts. It's haunting how many good ghosts there are in Alola, but the unanimous second place goes to Sinnoh with iconic ghost types. Sinnoh really knows how to make some creepy Pokemon. Dark type was hard, but Unova won by such a small amount that it may not even be considered a win. But that doesn't mean that its dark types aren't just the craziest things. I think these dark types are part of the reason fairy type was brought in to balance the meta, cause these dark types are brutal. But in the end, Sinnoh could have won too, with famous dark types like Darkrai himself, but today it's second place. Kalos though comes in third place, but let me tell you how crazy that is. Kalos is a contender even though it only has 4 Pokemon to represent, while I counted 5 Pokemon from the other region. That means Kalos came close even though it had 1 less Pokemon on its team. That just shows how high quality Kalos' dark types are. Steel was hard as well. I mean, Steel is always hard. It's Steel. Third place goes to Alola, with no bad Steel type in sight. Hoenn and Unova tie for second place. All of Hoenn's Steel types are top of the market, but Unova just has so much more of them. That's kind of hard to ignore. But Sinnoh really deserves first place. A lot of Sinnoh's wins today are super appropriate, like its Ice-type victory. The Pokemon in Sinnoh are tough. Dialga, Empoleon, Lucario, Heatran, Bastiodon, and the rest take home the gold. And finally, Fairy was kind of easy since the only two regions that qualify are Kalos and Alola. But Alola wins in the end because even though the top fairy types of Kalos are just the best, like Xerneas, Sylveon, and Florges, some of the fairy types it brings to the table are just the worst. And I'm not talking about competitively, I rarely am in this video. I'm just not a big fan of Aromatisse and Slurpuff, while Alola's fairy types are way more consistent and great at battle. It's hard not to mention the Tapus, Mimikyu, and Comfey really taking it for Alola. So now let's bring all the points together and see which region wins in general. First place wins for individual types give 3 points to the region, 2 points for second place, and 1 point for third. Just remember, the outcome doesn't really matter because in the end, the more Pokemon a region has, the more Pokemon there are to choose from, so Unova may win because it has the most Pokemon, even though it's hated the most, while Kalos may lose it even though a lot of people think it has the most consistently great Pokemon. This doesn't really reveal which regions have the best Pokemon, but rather which regions have the best assortment of specific types. The results are more for fun, and they are: in 7th place is Kalos with 4 points. Unfortunately, it has the least amount of Pokemon, so it couldn't even qualify for half of the types, with only a few from each. But a very close 6th place is Johto with 5 points. I mean, I've always known that Johto had a terrible variety of Pokemon and used Kanto Pokemon as a crutch, but I guess this helps illustrate this case. 5th place goes to Hoenn with 18 points. However, if we were ranking them based on how many wins instead of points, Hoenn would tie for first, so good job, Hoenn. 4th, 3rd, and 2nd place are actually tied with 19 points, but we will be ranking based on how many times they won. Alola, with a relatively low amount of Pokemon, gets 4th place. 3rd place goes to Sinnoh, and the region with the second most Pokemon gets the second best place, Kanto. And number 1 is the region with the most Pokemon. Unova gets 22 points. It goes to show that even though Unova has a ton of ridiculed Pokemon, you can't ignore the amount of Pokemon it has and how many cool choices of Mons to use. And with that being said, make sure to leave a like if you enjoyed and subscribe if you haven't. Check the description for the music I used, t-shirts I made for you guys, and my Patreon where you can donate to get cool rewards like early video access. Please make sure to follow me on Twitter, and I'll see you guys very soon.